You're lying in bed replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, editing your responses like a director's cut that no one asked for. Or you've spent 20 minutes crafting a 2-sentence text because what if the period makes you sound mad? Your brain is a courtroom where you're simultaneously the defendant, prosecutor, judge, and jury, and the trial never ends. Sound exhausting? Here's the thing. What if I told you that overthinking isn't a personality flaw, but a strategy? Your brain learned to feel safe. Stick around, because in a minute I'll show you the one question that reveals whether your overthinking is protective or slowly suffocating you. You're not broken, and your brain isn't malfunctioning. There's real psychology behind why some people think in paragraphs while others think in bullet points. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 core reasons overthinking happens, plus one surprisingly simple practice that can interrupt the spiral before it swallows your whole day. So let's decode the psychology of people who overthink everything. And we're not talking about careful consideration or healthy reflection. We're talking about the kind of thinking that loops, spirals, and keeps you frozen. Because some people make decisions in seconds. Others replay every choice like they're studying for a test on their own life. What's really going on? At the core, overthinking is often what psychologists call hypervigilance. Your nervous system scanning for threats, mistakes, or rejection before they happen. Pair that with something called intolerance of uncertainty, and you've got a brain that would rather exhaust itself imagining every possible outcome than sit with not knowing. It's not weakness. It's your mind trying to protect you from pain, embarrassment, or loss of control. But here's the irony. The protection becomes the prison. Let me break down the 3 biggest reasons your brain won't stop churning and why it actually makes sense. Number 1. You learned early that mistakes had consequences. If you grew up in an environment where getting it wrong meant criticism, punishment, or emotional withdrawal, your brain adapted. It started running simulations. If I say this, they'll react that way. If I do that, maybe I can avoid the fallout. Overthinking became your survival tool. Even now, when the stakes are low, like choosing a restaurant or sending a work email, your nervous system treats it like a high-wire act. Because at some point, it was a C. Think of it like this. Your brain is a smoke detector that got too sensitive. It can't tell the difference between burnt toast and an actual fire, so it screams at everything. The overthinking isn't the problem, it's the alarm system that never got recalibrated. Number 2, your brain craves certainty in an uncertain world. Now here's where it gets interesting. Research suggests that people who overthink often have lower tolerance for ambiguity. They need to know how things will unfold before they can relax. But life doesn't work that way. So the brain does what it does best. It tries to think its way to certainty. If I just analyze this from every angle, I'll find the right answer. Except there rarely is one right answer. And the more you think, the more possibilities you generate, and suddenly you're drowning in hypotheticals. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a spoon. Your brain thinks it's solving a problem. Really, it's just creating more noise. Number 3, overthinking is a delay tactic disguised as productivity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes overthinking is how we avoid taking action. Because as long as you're thinking, you're not risking failure, rejection, or the discomfort of the unknown. You stay safe in your head. It feels like you're working on the problem, you're engaged, you're thorough, you're responsible, but really, you're stuck. And the longer you think without acting, the bigger the decision becomes in your mind, which makes it even harder to move. Wild, right? The thing you think is keeping you safe is actually keeping you small. Now, here's the nuance check, because not all deep thinking is overthinking. Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Does this thinking lead to clarity and action, or does it loop back to the same fears? Healthy reflection moves you forward. Overthinking keeps you spinning. 2. Can you set the thought down and return to it later, or does it hijack your entire day? Rumination feels compulsive, like you can't stop, even when you want to. 3. Do you feel more empowered after thinking it through, or more paralyzed? If thinking makes you feel worse, that's your sign. It's not helping, it's harming. Here's one practice you can try today: the 10-minute thought deadline. When you catch yourself spiraling, set a timer for 10 minutes. Give yourself full permission to overthink. Write it out, pace, catastrophize, whatever. But when the timer goes off, you make one tiny decision or take one small action related to the thing you're stewing on. Send the text, make the call, pick the option. It doesn't have to be perfect. This practice teaches your brain two things. Thinking has a limit, and action is the antidote to anxiety. You're not suppressing the thoughts. You're putting a boundary around them so they don't colonize your whole life. So here's what we covered. Overthinking often comes from hypervigilance, intolerance of uncertainty, and using thought as a shield against action. Use the 3-question test to see if your thinking is helping or trapping you. And try the 10-minute deadline to prove to yourself that you can think less and live more. If overthinking is interfering with your sleep, relationships, or ability to function, consider talking to a licensed therapist. They can help you rewire the deeper patterns. Now I'm curious, what's the most ridiculous thing you've ever overthought? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear the wildest ones. And if you want to understand why some people never seem to overthink anything, that's next week's video. Hit subscribe so you catch it.